This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Well, we're on to the final 10 minutes of this morning's broadcast on News and Views with myself, Inayet Wadee. And we're going now taking a look at the Gauteng Rental Housing Tribunal. And we joined on the line by Zain McLaren from the Gauteng Government. Zain, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Shukran for having us.
Well, shukran to you for joining us this morning. Now, let's talk about the Gauteng Rental Housing Tribunal. Now, we know that we are in a very difficult situation at this point in time. COVID-19, job losses, and when we're talking about housing rental in particular, many people have lost their jobs, and this is always a matter for a dispute. But before we get to some of the issues like disputes, just give us an overview as far as this tribunal is concerned. What are some of the key mandates and objectives of this tribunal?
Right. We deal with disputes between landlords and tenants, specifically within the residential market. So our mandate is quite widespread. People have this misconception that we would only deal with government property. However, our mandates include anybody that's in a rental agreement. We'd have jurisdiction in terms of those particular properties. And our jurisdiction is obviously throughout the Gauteng province. We have a particular formal process that we would undertake if there's a dispute between the landlord and tenant. And we could go through the processes. But we essentially deal with disputes between landlords and tenants. And we form part of the Department of Human Settlement, as you correctly said.
Well, I think what is interesting to note here, obviously, is in terms of dealing with disputes, and we know that disputes can be long drawn, they can be very costly. And what I find quite interesting is this is obviously an alternative to costly court actions.
That is correct, and all the services that we provide are obviously free of charge because we work through. It's a service provided by the Department of Human Settlement. There are no costs involved to the parties, other than if a party would prefer to have their own legal representation. But as far as the services are concerned by the department, there are actually absolutely no cost involved. We also have a turnaround time. We must complete a complaint within 90 days from the time that it's been lodged with us. We must have completed all our processes by resolving the matter, either through informal resolution by our secretariat. We have an independent panel of mediators if parties are willing to mediate. And if there's no resolution, ultimately it would go to the tribunal for arbitration. The powers of the tribunal are equal to that of a magistrate's court. So if there would be non-compliance, we'd issue a writ at the end. So the powers are quite strong as far as enforcement is concerned when it gets to non-compliance of our judgments and things.
Right, then let's talk about the process, because I think this is very important for us to understand. I have a problem with my landlord, and I come to you guys. I mean, what is the process?
Right, we'd obviously clearly have to determine whether we have jurisdiction. Firstly, jurisdiction in terms of where the property is situated, the relationship between that must exist between the landlord and tenant. Once we've established jurisdiction, we'd have formal complaints documentation that needs to be completed. We will then allocate a case number. So it's very similar, like you go into the police station and open in a complaint. We'll allocate a case number. We'll then inform the respondent of the allegation lodged against him or her. They'll have an opportunity to respond. If not, we'll follow the formal processes of mediation and ultimately arbitration, there are formal documentation that needs to be completed. At the end of which I may give the email addresses and contact numbers where people would be able to lodge complaints with us.
Now, Zain, let's just look at some of the typical complaints and disputes that arise. What would those be?
Non-payment of rent is actually the highest complaint that we receive. Over the years, it has taken up quite a huge percentage. And then if we go amongst the other things, importantly, we deal with lockouts, eviction. When I say eviction, we talk about people that have been evicted illegally without a court order. We would have jurisdiction in those particular matters. Where services have been terminated illegally without a court order, so your lights or your water has been terminated illegally without a court order and not by the local authorities, we'd have jurisdiction in those particular matters. Non-refund of deposits, lack of maintenance, and those are the type of common disputes that we deal with on a regular basis. There are others, intimidation and harassment that we deal with, breach of contract, etc. But the main ones is the one that I've listed right up front.
Now, obviously, Zain, there are obligations and responsibilities to honor the agreement on both sides, whether it's the landlord or the tenant. And I suppose these are factors that you will take into account as well.
Well, particularly also now during the pandemic and the challenges that we have been faced with. The tribunal is obviously very sympathetic to those particular factors. And if people have sufficient evidence to support their loss of income, etc., the tribunal will consider those factors before making any determinations. But it's important that people would produce their relevant evidence in these things. So yes, it is a very difficult time, and we are very conscious of those things, and those factors are taken into consideration.
Zain, is a lease agreement a must for you, for the Gauteng Rental Tribunal to get involved?
Well, currently as we speak, in terms of the legislation, there's an amendment to the Act 35 of 2014, which has not been signed by the President as yet. If that is signed, then it's going to make lease agreements mandatory. But currently, as we speak, lease agreements are not mandatory. So even verbal lease agreements would be accepted. And we would deal with them in terms of our jurisdiction and do preliminary investigations around those things.
Right. Now, I know we are talking about just the Gauteng province at this point in time. Zain, are you aware, and because we reach out to listeners right across the entire country, are you aware of similar tribunals in other provinces?
All right. All provinces, all 9 provinces throughout the country has tribunals. I'm happy at the end of this for somebody to call me, provide the information where they would be able to put up on your website the information where people could contact the relevant tribunals in their provinces. But all 9 provinces are functional as far as tribunals are concerned.
Okay, Zain. Okay, and then, I think now that you're talking about contact details, yes, if you could give us your contact details where people could get in touch with you.
All right. Our centralized email address is Rental Tribunal, all one word, at gauteng.gov.za. And our contact telephone numbers, they all start with 011630 50, and the last 2 digits would change, and I'll give you those numbers now. So it's 5036 5048 5051 5076. Those would be the contact numbers of our case managers that would be able to assist people should they have the need to lodge a dispute with us.
Well, Zain, shukran for that and for your time with us this morning. We certainly do appreciate it. I think this is very, very extremely important information, very valuable information that you have shared with us this morning on Salam Media, on News and Views, and we certainly do appreciate it. Please, you take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Zain McLaren from the Gauteng Government joining us this morning, the Gauteng Rental Housing Tribunal. And as Zain mentioned, this is right across the entire province. All 9 provinces have got tribunals of their own. And this is a major issue. It has always been a major issue. And I'm sure many people are not aware of this forum where disputes can be resolved between landlords and tenants. Particularly, we're talking about residential dwellings. And the beauty part is this is a free service to refer to resolve these disputes and these complaints. So it does take away a lot in terms of court action and, more importantly, costs that are involved as a result of the court action. And with that, our time is up. The time is headed straight for 10 a.m. this morning. And from myself and the rest of the team at Salam Media, the early morning team on News and Views, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.